Welcome, everyone. My name is Kellen Steele. This is Pixsturefilms, Episode 4. So let's get started. This is some footage that I pulled in as it relates to Canon R5. And yeah, we still have Canon R5 users out there. I wanted to share with you guys how I implement the Canon Cinema Gamut as well as Canon C-Log 3 color space into the Final Cut workflow and how it relates to Dehancer and seeing how this will affect my footage. So as you can see here, we have a clip of a young beautiful lady and next to a nice background, and wanted to share with you guys basically how I implemented some minor effects regarding balancing the footage and exposure. I will tell you, already having graded this before, just testing it out, that it is, when it comes to Canon R5, C-Log 3, Canon Cinema Gamut, a little strong. So I had to just do a very basic, minor touch of exposure and contrast with this footage. So I'll just show you guys, and if we go to effects, I will show you what we did. We just did some adjustment on the saturation, and we decreased the saturation. We didn't do too much on the global exposure. We did, however, decrease the shadows. We also increased the highlights, and we also decreased a little bit of the midtones. So I'll just show you so you can get an idea of what this looks like before applying the Dehancer plugin. Also, here is, we're going to take you to the color curves so you get an idea of what we did with the curves. We increased a little bit over near the highlights, higher ends of the midtones, and then we also made adjustments near the skin tone area, lower toward the shadow, and then we also made an adjustment on the shadow. And we really didn't do anything with the RGB, the red, the green, and the blues. And now for the next part, which would be Dehancer. So we're going to activate Dehancer, and what you see here is as soon as we activate it, it shows up pretty saturated. And as I mentioned to you before, I had went ahead and just implemented the Canon R5 C-Log 3, but I will show you what it would look like if it just was a general standard Rec 709. It would come looking like this with already certain elements activated. So what we'll do, we'll just start over and we'll hit reset the entire parameter. So for me, I already know that I use Canon C-Log 3 Cinema Gamut. So I will choose camera. The vendor was Canon and R5, and it already defaults to C-Log 3 Cinema Gamut. From here, you are able to choose your exposure, your temperature, your tint, and it's best to really start from the top and work your way down. However, there are a few suggestions that Dehancer makes in order to make your workflow a little easier and more fluid. And one of the things that they recommend is when it comes to the expand option here, what you want to do is, it states that you want to immediately after you choose a film profile selection, you want to use this expand option, which is the black points and the white points. And that's what Dehancer recommends. So that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and choose a film profile. And there are so many options here that you guys, I'm sure, will enjoy. For me, I think I'll just start with the Kodak Portra. Or maybe we'll start with the Kodak Portra 800. So that's a little bit more of a lighter feel. I like the 800. I'll also show you some more before we continue. Here's the Kodak 250, the Kodak Vision 3 250D, and that stands for daylight. I kind of like that. Here's the 500T. I like the T as well, gives a more warmer feel. And then now what we'll do is we will do just what was suggested, is we will adjust. Actually, what we want to do is go to the profile, print profile, and you want to choose that as well. And for me, I like glossy. There's always the Kodak 2383. I'll let you guys see the Fujifilm 3515, as well as the Cineon Log and linear. And I'm going to go back to glossy. I like that. Gives a nice little glossy, contrasty look. Now we're going to go back to the expand option, and we will make adjustments to our shadows, possibly our highlights. But let's look at our scopes and see how this will be, our image will be affected by reading our scopes. We're a little bit above 75 IRE, but we're below 100, so we have some wiggle room there. We're kind of close to 0 on our shadows, so we're going to be a little careful how we make adjustments. Here is our exposure back into the Dehancer Pro plugin. Let's see the temperature. Maybe just make it a little bit warmer. The tint, let's see. Kind of like it right there. Let's see. We are at Kodak Vision 3 500T. And remember, we want to make an adjustment to our black points if we see a need. And I'm looking at my scopes. And then the white point, because it was a kind of a bright sunny day. And now we're going to work our way down. We already chose our print profile. We could adjust the exposure if we want to. Tonal contrast. Color density, which actually adds a bit more saturation on the lower end of the color. Makes it more denser. You don't really see much effect on the luminosity, the highlights, but more on the overall saturation. You can even take it back. Kind of like it about right there. And here's the actual saturation, black and white, or fully at 100. We also have the color head, which you can adjust the tonality from, gonna enable it here. Tonality from yellow to blue, if you so choose. I'll reset. Green, magenta. We'll reset that. The cyan red. We also have the shadows tone and midtones. And remember, midtones is skid tones. Highlights. Now, looking at her forehead area here, right here, to give me an idea about where the highlight color is. And then we also can, under the color head tab, we also can adjust the preserve exposure. I think it looks fine at 100%. You also have the impact. And we'll work our way. Oh, let's go back up to film compression. There's a few more tabs I like to show you. Under the film profile area, we have the film developer. We can adjust the contrast boost, and if I turn it on, that would actually help. So more contrasty, a little less contrasty. We also have the gamma curve, and this will make the gamma bias toward either the highlights or toward the shadows. So that's what this gamma correction function is. Also have color separation. and then color boost. I like that. That's good. We also have the film impact. And again, we want to enable it. And then we also have the white point based on the current settings that it's located in. I'm also looking at my scope. We also have the tonal range, which will also bias toward highlights when it comes to the range of the tonality. We also have black point, white point that we already discussed, print. Then we go to our color head, which we already made adjustments. Now we look at our film grain, which is already enabled. This is automatically enabled when you first turn on the Dehancer, so you have the option to disable it so you can get a better idea about where your footage is. Also, we have halation. We can enable that as well. And as you can see near the fringes and highlighted areas where halation kind of takes its effect, and we are able to decide what profile we want, if it's on a 35mm, 16, or 65mm. And we can disable that for now. We also have bloom. We can enable bloom, as we can see. We also can choose what kind of profile, 35, 16, 8, 65, so forth. Another thing we can do, I'm just going to scroll down, is we have an area called the monitor, and we can look at the false color to see your areas that are exposed, either overexposed, underexposed. You can turn that on or off. You also have the clipping indication, and this lets me know if I have went too far past my blacks. And it also represents here in my scopes to my left. You can also see here. So I'm able to make the adjustments with this dark blue area. It's letting me know that we are a little too low in our blacks. So we could go back up to either our exposure or the area where it says expand and make an adjustment there until that blue highlighted area goes away. Then we can turn it off if we're happy with that. And now what I want to do is go to some of the other effects elements. We already talked about halation, bloom. Look to my right, film damage. This is a nice feature that mimics film damage. We have 35mm, 16, 8, 65. And with film damage, we also have film breath. You can enable that as well. You'll see that when you play it, what it does is it's an accidental change in exposure, contrast, and color from frame to frame as the film moves. And so Dehancer was able to emulate this function and put it in a way where it can be implemented into the plugin. So I'll just play that a little bit for you so you can see how it affects the gate weave and also the film breath. I'll try it again. What you see is some specks in this area as the subject moves, and also some coloration going on when it comes to film breath. I'll turn it to 16. Okay, very good. I'll disable that and the film damage. I'll enable the gate weave so you can see how that looks at 35mm. Okay. We'll disable that, and we'll also go to vignette. We'll enable that. And you have the option of using Dehancer's vignette or Final Cut. So I like their vignette, looks pretty cool. You can adjust the size of the vignette. You can also feather it. As you can see, there's the outline. You can feather it. I'll disable that. And there's also the output option. And that allows you to see how far the effect is, and you can adjust it with these parameters. You can leave it at 100% or 0. There's also a LUT generator option available if you wanted to see how making this into a LUT 17 by 17 or 33 by 33. You can also export this option. And then also on the bottom, you have the license info. And you can put the information or verify the information with the license information. Also the check profiles, which allow you to upload all the print profiles as well. So you want to make sure you do that too before you even start with using Dehancer. As you can see, it is uploading. Just so you guys know where it is. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, there's also a discount code available that Dehancer has allowed me to give you guys and share with you. It will give you 10% off. The link is in the description, but it's also in the video. There's a discount code, so make sure you take advantage of it as part of your discount and in your purchase. And back to our regular schedule. Okay, before we end this review, I just want to make a few more adjustments to my liking. We're gonna scroll back up to Film Developer, and we're going to make adjustments to the gamma correction. And what I'm trying to do is add some more exposure and bring up those shadows in the hair. And this affects the contrast, the Film Developer, the gamma correction. And then we go to the film compression. I'm just gonna move it a little to the left to bring up those highlights a little bit. Instead of compressing it, somewhat decompressing. And then what we want to do is we can turn on the film grain. So I like to do that at the very end after I kind of get the look the way I want it, as well as the exposure, the contrast, where the color is being biased towards warm tones or cooler tones, where I want my highlights and shadows. And then I turn on the film grain. And we are at 35mm 500. If we audition the 200, we see it's not as dominant. We can go to the 50, a little less dominant, and 16mm, a bit more dominant. You can see a bit more of the grain. But I think I like to, let's try 65, 50. Okay, a little bit more, or actually less dominant. Let's try the 250 and the 500. Okay, so let's stick with 35mm ISO 500. I think I like that. And then let's turn on the halation just to see how that's looking. And let's bring it to about 16mm. Whoa, very bold, very thick, very strong. Let's bring it back to 35. Okay. And I think I'll keep the, oops, that's the grain. Let's bring the halation. Where are you, halation? back to 35. Okay, a little strong. Let's go to 70. All right, we like that. And let's go to bloom. We'll leave it at 35. And looks good to me. Okay, so all in all, the review, what I think, what I thought. Well, I like Dehancer. I think it's a nice plug-in to give you that film emulation look, along with the other effects that it allows you to implement within Final Cut. Would I use it again? Of course. What I like to see as far as adjustments, changes to be made. I think number one, I made some notes. Make the main tabs bolder. So as you can see over here where it says film breadth, gate weave, overscan, perhaps make it a little bit more bolder within the UI, the user interface, within Final Cut's user interface, which will allow us to easier identify these effects without having to strain or look for them too much. If they're a little bolder, maybe a little bit larger in font size, that would help tremendously. The other thing I would like to mention is if I put my mouse over the overscan, perhaps some little pop-up could give me a small description of what it is and what it does. That would help as well for the experience. Also, scroll with the mouse on items that should automatically preview or show a preview without having to click on it. So for example, if I was to go to overscan here and I put my mouse on the Ultra 16, it should show me automatically what it does as a preview, or on the Super 16, or on the standard 16 millimeters and so forth. The same thing. If I'm on bloom and I click on the 65, instead of clicking on it, which would officially select it, allow my mouse to be placed on it and it already shows me a preview. I think that would be very helpful as well and speed up the process when trying to audition all these different effects. So in all, would I use it again? Yes, I would. I think it'd be very helpful for you in your pathway and also in creating a look and feel, a filmic look. Please make sure you follow my page, Pixsturefilms. I look forward to the next episode. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. My name is Kellen Steele. This is Pixsturefilms, episode 4. See you soon.